Hello, this is Kyle Mackesy, the creator and owner of Sonkhonkett, the Puppet Townie comedy web series detailing the lives of Greater Boston's North Shore townies. Sonkhonkett has been in the works since 2008 when I first came up with the concept. Then in the summer of 2009 is when I started making complete puppets, and the puppet making process lasted from then to 2013, the summer of, and I'll say that's the kind of the beginning stages. I still make puppets to this day, but in the summer of 2013 is when I made the big decision to make Sonkhonkett the top priority in my life. This YouTube slideshow video you're watching is going to act as the website. The website's still up, but it's going to be taken down in 2025 because, as you know, Sonkhonkett, the show, I decided to conclude it this year, the year of 2024. But I want all you fans to still have something online to check out if you want to see the behind this, just the background information of the characters, the show's concept, that fun stuff, kind of the conceptual artwork. So now I'm going to read off to you the mission statement of the show, which you can check out in the About section at sonkhonkett.com. It's entitled Sonkhonkett, Tower of the Townie. This show / life project latches on, isolates, and reveals the metaphysics of the Tao of the Townie. And we're going to break down that last sentence, metaphysics of the Tao of the Townie. So the Oxford Dictionary defines metaphysics as the branch of philosophy that deals with the first principle of things, including abstract concepts such as being, knowing, substance, cause, identity, time, and space. So that's the first point. The second point, the Wikipedia definition of the Tao. The Tao is the natural order of the universe whose character one's intuition must discern to realize the potential of individual wisdom as conceived in the context of East Asia philosophy, East Asian religions, or any other philosophy or religion that aligns this principle. This intuitive knowing of life cannot be grasped as a concept. Rather, it is known through actual living experience of one's everyday being. Its name, Tao, comes from the Chinese, where it signifies the way, path, route, road, or sometimes more loosely, doctrine, principle, or holistic belief. So the third point, definition of townie is like defining a Polish man, a man from Poland and or of Polish culture. As you can see, that doesn't say much, so I gotta show you through the show. For now, I'll start with a person from either the poor, working class, or middle class that grew up here, New England, and is of this culture, usually through, not always, is of Eurocentric descent. And I'll progress on. When people think of townies, many are either ignorant, clueless, dismissive, prejudiced towards this demographic. These people justify their prejudice with the adjectives pedestrian, simple, wild, uncouth, problematic, provincial, and ignorant. Townies, for me, which I am on the spectrum of, provide relatively raw, objective truth and universal wisdom that transcends aesthetic, cosmopolitan notions of correct, smart, good, think. On the other side of this coin, I also investigate the problematic notions that exist in the culture. This yin and yang of the townie and Sonkhonkett in relation to other demographics is, for me, a potential library of sageness. And I think that's it. Also, Sonkhonkett is a video production company, and I've been rooted in paying all its participants, whether it be tech people, performers, set builders, other types of 2D artists, you name it, a fair wage. Pay their transportation to get to the place to film it. So what you have here is Sonkhonkett, Massachusetts. A map of the zip code is 01986. There's a population of 20,587. The zip code is in the North Shore, at least along the coast there, 19th century years. So I figured I'd use the year, the date of my birth. So a few miles north of Boston, nestled between Revere, Saugus, and Lynn, is the town of Sonkhonkett, partitioned off in the 1620s as Indian Territory by treaty. Illegal settlers established the Rumney Marsh as a farming community. After the separation from Chelsea in 1871, Sonkhonkett boomed in the lucrative industries of paper clips and novelty vomit production. This, along with its horse track and mediocre yielding clams, sustained the town until the end of the industrial era in the 1970s. And if you don't know, where Sonkhonkett lies is where the Rumney Marsh is. And the river that runs through Sonkhonkett, in real life it's called the Pine River. I'm calling it the Rumney River. Rumney is named after a town in the southeast of England where the first settlers came from. An interpretation, a drawing of downtown Sonkhonkett done by the artist Sean Cleary. This is Sonkhonkett Boulevard. Route 107 is the heart of the community, with businesses like Bernie Smock's Ottoman Emporium and, yeah, it's French beauty salon supporting its faithful residents. Our mayor Vincent Fins Della Vecchia is seen here sporting some fashionable Crocs. This is Charlie Nolan enjoying a few Gansets. And from left to right are the characters Chelsea, Lynn, Charlie, Lauren Schimmel, Dottie McGarvey, and a little bit of Tommy McGarvey, aka the 617 Rage. Ronnie Twitman, aka DJ Cheesecake. Wake up to a morning zoo radio station filled with hack bit after hack bit. Sheesh, pipe it down, the 5 o'clock funnies are on. John Scups Medeiros, or Medeiros, however you want to pronounce it, the half-caught, half-man fishmonger, roams the North Shore of Greater Boston, sadly continuing a conflicted existence. If you must ask, yes, he drinks like a fish. Charlie Nolan. I do a bit of everything. Carpentry, roofing, laying hardwood. You know, working for a living. South Sonkhonkett. When departing from the MBTA Blue Line station, South Sonkhonkett, remember to take the ramp that brings you over the commuter rail tracks to the cozy McCluskey housing projects. This is South Sonkhonkett. As you can see, it's the more industrialized, densely populated half of Sonkhonkett. This is where a lot of the paperclip and novelty vomit production plants were, especially on the west side of the city. You can see the abandoned factories on Bennett Street. Bennett Street being named after one of the first settlers of the Rumney Marsh, Sonkhonkett. This is North Sonkhonkett, the west side. Route 1 drowns the silence of Melrose. This is the eastern half of North Sonkhonkett, accessible via Salem Turnpike Route 107 includes 7 roundabouts through the zip code. The buses 450, 455, and 459 have a commuter rail stop abutting the Coppola Bocce Court. Every 5th Thursday, Charlie Nolan operates a ferry service from Blanchard Entrance on Misquisquampit Beach for the fee of $13 or 2 packs of Gansets. So Sonkhonkett was established by 17 English families. These were settlers. They were very wealthy from the Shawmut Peninsula, the town of Boston, now we know as the city of Boston. Yes, they did violate a Indian treaty that was established in 1620. They moved in around 1630. If you're familiar with the lore of Sonkhonkett, which I get into in 2023 with the Sonking Marsh Witch, she's responsible for the 2-mile stretch that's Sonkhonkett Boulevard, aka the Salem Turnpike, aka Route 107. She's responsible for the 7 roundabouts that occur there. You can find more about that in the 4-part series The Shift from 2023. And there's also lore that I wrote. I couldn't find the story, but it was about the horse track that used to be in the Rumney Marsh. It's an old story called Old Mattress, referring to a runaway race horse back in the 1880s in Sonkhonkett. Here's a triple-decker, a common sight in Sonkhonkett, as well in a lot of New England communities. This one's owned by Charlie Nolan. He inherited these from his father. Being the landlord, he gave the McGarveys a break for being 3 months late on rent, but we shouldn't expect the hallway lights to go on for at least another week. Entering Misquisquampit Marsh. Behind Revere Beach is the Misquisquampit Beach, complete with a marsh haunted by the Sonking Marsh Witch. Current residency of Tommy. Yeah, he doesn't clean up the bean cans. This is front of where Dottie McGarvey lives, her triple-decker. And even though she's a Easter Christmas Catholic, she has the Blessed Mother out there in the front. Some more artwork in the residency of the McGarveys, the Blessed Son of God. And here's Bernie Smock in front of Bernie Smock's Ottoman Emporium, New England's leading supplier of all your footrest needs. Sure, the salt air worn storefronts, MBTA tracks, factory-lined riverway, and aging triple-deckers give Sonkhonkett its flair. But what makes this North Shore community shine above the rest are its residents. So how about you scroll down, and drop a few Hawaiians. And here's the star of the show, Charlene Marie Zapparoli Pelletier, aka Charlene from Revere. From the city of Revere hails Charlene, the beauty school dropout, who takes pride that she's never been goon-handed. A master in the art of tanning and conning radio cash giveaways, Charlene bathes in the bubble bath that is life, and she'll let you know it as she lights up a Newport. That Newport being provided by her girls Chelsea and Lynn, as tribute to Charlene's smarts that you just can't get in Everett or Malden. 5 months hiding a pregnancy from Mom won't work with just Spanx. Yeah, Charlene, as with all my puppets, I go through multiple iterations creating them. I've created the most iterations with her. There's been a total of 6 versions, so you'll get to see at least 4 of the versions, the last 4 of Charlene. Chelsea, Friends with Charlene since kindergarten when she stuck chewing gum in Charlene's hair, Chelsea is a loyal companion. Working shifts at Lanzalotti's Pizzeria, Chelsea does her best to make ends meet and is tough as nails around anyone who thinks they can mess with her, except, of course, Charlene. Lynn. Part of the Rat Pack since she knew how to remove gum out of hair, Lynn is a nice gal. Preferring to remain quiet much of the time, Lynn enjoys the fish and chips at the So Don't Die and secretly is a video game enthusiast. Tommy McGarvey, aka the 617 Rage. Tommy has a few buddies who are Teamsters, so he'll be getting a job any day now. Those construction boots he wears might now look fitting. Still living with his mother, Tommy, even after the move from Charlestown to Sonkhonkett, dedicates his time to make it big in the rap world as the 617 Rage. He hasn't done a show yet, but he'll lay down some verses for you, free of charge at the corner of Sonkhonkett Boulevard and Rumney Street in front of the Miles Standish Candlepins Bowling Alley. Tommy was struggling to find his angle in the rap game, so he chose to rap about the evils of firemen, quote-unquote. This asinine contrarian stance was a response to NWA's Fuck the Police. This gimmick fell short, and now he preaches the evils of the sonking marsh witch. Tommy will also venture into lineage, specifically around his pop, who's doing his number at Walpole Correctional, the quote-unquote King of Kings of Charlestown bank robbers. Robert Boots McGarvey is God to his son. Never mind that Slippery was only a humble paper hanger. Slippery being the nickname for Tommy's dad. According to Tommy, no man is a real man without his G-sharp. Oh, is that Ma? She wants you to fill her bowl with more of the generic brand Market Basket dog chow, or as Ma would word it, for the 11th fucking millionth time, don't put the kibble on the counter. I'm too old to jump that high. Dottie McGarvey, a native of Charlestown who had to flee the Genghis Khan horde of yuppies, worked for the department for 35 years. What department that is, no one truly knows. 18 years plugging the jug, she swears by AA as she precariously balances a Marlboro cigarette on her lip. She loves her husband, quote-unquote Slippery, who's doing time at Walpole. A saint on earth he is. Currently, she is collecting a pension that Dottie describes only a man with short arms and deep pockets can make do with. She spends her time in front of the apartment barking at hooligans and sluts who won't cover their tramp stamps. Her son Tommy was living with her until he decided to run off into the marsh to find the sonking marsh witch. And when he was living with her, well, at least he was good for retrieving items from the shelves. Yes, she's part pitbull, and I advise you never to refer to her as a bitch. Charlie is a born and bred Sonkhonkett man. He lays hardwood, does carpentry, and roofs in the summer. You know, working for a living. While not doing an honest day of labor, you'll find him at Dunkin' Donuts or one of Sonkhankett's watering holes like the Yankee Peddler or the So Don't Die, ranting in the corner how there couldn't be no better athlete than Bobby Orr. Sitting there, he'll fill out the Keno cards with childlike enthusiasm that on this day, they'll hit his number. He might not know what the capital Rhode Island is, quote-unquote. Let the muckety-mucks work it out. What will I know? But he can hold a driver's license with 13 accrued DUIs. And he can throw darts, well, like Bobby Orr with pucks. John Scups Medeiros. Scups' father, João Medeiros, looking to escape his pestering wife in the Azores, took up fishing in Gloucester. On one of those lonely nights at sea, he had his way with the cod, and thus spawned an unwanted child, John Scups Medeiros. Following his father's boat, Scups would cry out for his father, yearning for the love, affection, acceptance every child desires from their old man. But João would have no doing with a reminder of his past desperate isolation. With all the efforts imitating his father, trying to get the pollock, mackerel, and porgies into the nets, Scups had to come to terms that his mother was probably already served as a bacalhau dish. No fish would let him into their school, and being a fishing partner with the father were no use dreaming about. So the closest cut he could slice was to become a fishmonger. Earning enough money to buy a truck, Scups now wanders the North Shore, making the meager living of hawking second-grade scrod. Drinking like a fish, Scups exists in the confines of an identity crisis / abandonment depression. Nothing is more foreign to him than hope. Lawrence Schimmel resides in a small, weather-worn house with a front yard that's more sizable, at least in depth, compared to other properties in the neighborhood. This residency is the only home he has ever had, and now lives alone, being that his mother passed 11 years ago. Miss Schimmel knew no other way to raise a son than with yelling and beatings. Lawrence rarely left the house, for the anticipation of potential punishment was always looming. At least being in her vicinity, he knew the yelling and beatings would be enacted and thus be over with. His mother being abandoned by Lawrence's father, when Lawrence was born, had to operate a brothel down cellar to pay the mortgage and bills. The house was always poorly lit, and Lawrence would peek through the warped floorboards and reenact what he saw in the cellar with his dolls. This was his only means of processing the pain and isolation in his life. Trying to find employment was a hurdle, and eventually turned into one big public disaster. Now issued by the state of Massachusetts, Mr. Lawrence J. Schimmel is a Class II registered sex offender. Since he was caught molesting a fire hydrant, Lawrence works as a programmer contracted by numerous telephone companies. Through his computer hacking skills and stolen equipment provided by Jasper Jenkins in exchange for a gallon of diesel, paint thinner, and half a bottle of turpentine, he is able to put money on MBTA Charlie cards. This has made his house a reluctant destination for many residents of Sonkhonkett. Jasper Jenkins. Hailing from the middle American state of Missoula, Oklahoma, Jasper has been through the ringer of life. Sold into slavery by his papa to a thistle farmer, Jasper escaped after 5 years of grueling labor. Living a transient life, he lost one arm due to stealing tears from a crocodile. Coping with the help of inhalants, the turpentine sent him to Sonkhonkett to make bed next to the garbage barrels of Lawrence Schimmel's house. Creating a symbiotic relationship with Lawrence, Jasper sells pills, or as we call them here, beans, to drug-addicted fiends. Drug fiends. This brings in customers that want free money placed on their Charlie cards, which Lawrence has the equipment to enact such. Lawrence is able to make some side cash without the deterrence of the sex offender posters scaring folks off. Jasper gets a home for the meantime till the brake fluid stench moves up the Gulf Stream. Chuck Jonesboro, attorney at law. Representing Sonkhonkett since 2010, Chuck has sailed the seas of legality. Can you trust him? Come on, look at that legitimate lawyer face. I rest my case. Ronnie Twitman, aka DJ Cheesecake. A Sonkhonkett native who aspired to be the love child of Brucey Bruce and Casey Kasem, Ronnie dropped his EMD, Eastern Massachusetts dialect, and replaced it with morning zoo mediocrity. Hoping to make it big in Boston after interning for 29 years, we can now all enjoy the War of the Roses bid for the 4th round this month on 107.8 The Marsh. Mayor Vincent Fins Della Vecchia, the great mayor of Sonkhonkett, Fins, has swooped in like a shark taking a bite into all that is troubling the former world capital of paperclip and novelty vomit production. He's got a little gambling problem, so let's see if Sonkhonkett will have a budget to build its 27th roundabout. Claire and Conrad Yepperson. Sonkhonkett has 2 new arrivals. Hailing from Concord, Massachusetts, these yuppies yearn for a more cosmopolitan lifestyle to suit their more enlightened way of being. Sure, they could have set up and shop in Cambridge or Brookline, but the real up-and-coming place is that rustic, sea-salt-kissed North Shore hamlet. Little-known tidbit, the Yeppersons start off every morning masturbating to the fact that they live in the last Victorian triple-decker built by Theodorius Martijn van der Snuggle-Poosendorp. Sonkhonket's finest, Officer Wolfberg, that's Donnie Wolfberg, is all about the job. A Sonking native that joined the Boston PD and then was reassigned, quote-unquote, due to occupational hazards. Sure, he's caused a 17-car pileup, but that hoodlum was jaywalking. He's made camp at his Aunt Dottie's to find the quote-unquote big one. Always, quote-unquote, coming in hot, Donnie will enforce the law, even if it means breaking a few laws, trucks, babies, toast ovens. Bernie and Beverly Smock are the product of focused determination and hard work. And that Bernie Smock Jr. inherited his father's gold mine of Bernie Smock's Ottoman Emporium, New England's leading supplier of all your footrest needs. They own a nice house in North Sonkhonkett, even to Beverly's chagrin of what she perceives, quote-unquote, parlor invites too much dryness. Bernie breaks his home life, reliving his high school years with Ronnie Twitman, playing in the North Shore's 1985 leading Guns N' Roses tribute band Guns N' Needles. Lester Squeaks McCluskey coincidentally always pops out of nowhere when you're on smoke break. Yeah, he's getting that Newport. Being the only friend of Tommy, Lester, quote-unquote, squeaks for the 617 Rage. Squeaks meaning promote. This purpose of being a promoter of his god makes everything A-OK. When he's not running chores for Tommy in and out of the marsh, Squeaks is producing those quote-unquote fire beats for the Rage. He too could be a great DJ, but Tommy is always first. And Squeaks was raised in the McCluskey housing projects, and that's where he gets his surname. He was found inside a wall. He was dragged in by a cat. After much meowing, the neighbors looked into the abandoned unit and found Squeaks' head poking out of a hole in the wall. The Sonking Marsh Witch. She's been terrorizing Sonkhonkett since 1691, when she, Abigail Georgina Jenkins, was ostracized for not having yellow fever or cholera. Sonkhonkett, aka Rumney Marsh, was quarantined by the town of Boston because Beantown was tired of the North Shore sending their sick through Boston to die in the marshes of the South Shore. Coming from a wealthy family, that was one of 17 families to violate the Rumney Marsh Treaty as Indian Territory, she couldn't handle the scorn and isolation. Abigail ran into Old Scratch, the devil, leaning on a fence, and exchanged her soul for immortality. Eschewing death guaranteed her vengeance by haunting the town for centuries. She nested in the Misconquompin Marsh, where she became one with the darkness of the marsh. Luring vulnerable men, she seduced them in a motherly manner, and once their lips touched one of her 9 teats, seagull excrement would ooze containing a potion that would leave them helpless to the command of the witch. Seducing past mayors reveals why the town has 7 roundabouts on the 2.4-mile stretch we know as Salem Turnpike, Route 107, aka Sonkhonkett Boulevard. The 617 Rage made it his rapping life mission to expose and hunt this menace of the town. Unfortunately, the sonking marsh witch got the upper hand on Tommy. R.I.P.